Well, hi there, and welcome to Jump to It here on irishracing.com. Now, usually the Monday show is a review of the weekend's action. We'll be daft to do that, wouldn't we? It's going to be a preview of the Punchestown Festival. And what we're going to do for this week is look at the Tuesday, the Wednesday, and the Thursday action in this show. And then later on in the week, we'll be focusing on the remainder of the Punchestown card and the Guineas meeting at Newmarket as well. It's going to be a top class 3 days of action we're going to be focusing on now, the Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. We've got a top class panel. I would like to bring in Stephen Harris and Vincent Finegan are with me. Now, Vincent, this is a wonderful 3 days or 5 days of action. 3 days we're focusing on here. It must get you really, really excited.
Oh, it's a brilliant week. One of the best weeks of the year in Ireland, certainly. It and Galway would probably be our two big festivals of the year. Obviously, Galway's quite a bit longer at 7 days. This is only a little pup of a thing at 5 days, but it's good fun. And there's some cracking action. Some of the best national hunt racing you're going to see all season here. And we've seen so far, while we're recording this, we've seen declarations for Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday in particular, we've got some outstanding races, with the Gold Cup particularly being one of the best renewals we'll see anywhere of any race in the throughout the season. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's a huge thing locally. The Punchestown Festival, everyone in the Kildare area, every village, every town, they close shops, they close schools, they close banks, everything closes, everyone heads there. It's a huge week and a fantastic celebration of national hunt racing.
It really will be. And Vincent, you'll be returning to the racecourse yourself, I gather. Really looking forward to that, and really do enjoy the week.
Oh, yes, it should be a fantastic week. Tuesday, I'm heading over for the first day. Opening day should be good fun. That's when everyone's very excited. No one's back to loser yet. It's always a good time to be going racing rather than halfway through a festival when people are on their knees at that stage. But yeah, it should be great fun. Really looking forward to Tuesday.
A lot of horses who've been on the get-go since end of September, October, even in a few cases. Horses who have soaked in Cheltenham, Aintree, possibly even Fairyhouse. I suppose a lot of it is knowing what's left in the tank for many of these protagonists.
Yeah, I mean, it's very difficult for punters. I mean, it is a bit of a minefield. Vincent will be a far better judge of these sort of bumpers and mares races and cross-country races. It's a real marathon test. I think you've got to pick your punches more than ever, Ed, to be honest. And I've said last week that I think you're virtually evens where the horses give their running at this stage of the season, unless they've been missing for a few months and sort of laid out for a valuable prize. Generally speaking, most of them, this is not plan A. This is something went wrong at one of the festivals, or they've missed work and had problems and have only just been able to come back now. So the late market moves will be even more perceptive than ever, I'd have thought. And certainly some of these races that look, there's some fantastic entries. I mean, we were just saying off air, it basically is Cheltenham, isn't it, with just one or two English challenges. It's an amazing meeting.
It really is, and as you say, it can be quite tricky for punters. I mean, I was just looking through the Roll of Honour and the history of some of these races. We've had some massive upsets here with the likes of Planet of Sound for Philip Hobstein coming over and nabbing the Punchestown Gold Cup. I think Follow the Plan won it 1 year at a huge price, and One Trap Mind for Warren Greatrex team came over and won the 3 mile stairs hurdle at a big price as well. As you say, a lot of guesswork in some respects. In fact, how can these horses who've been on the go for 5 or 6 months maintain their form or uphold it, shall we say? So all part of the great mystique. And without further ado, I think we'll kick on with the action. Looking at the Tuesday, we're going to concentrate on the Grade 1s as a primary focus. The 4:15 is the Bective Stud Champion Novice Hurdle on the Tuesday. Grade 1 action, €73,000 and a bit more to the winner. 5 runners declared for this one. Looking forward to this one, Vincent. Should be a bit of a corker. A lot of eyes naturally are going to be on Sir Gerhard here, who's just become somewhat of a win machine.
Oh, without a doubt. The only time he's beaten was here last year at this meeting. He came after winning the Cheltenham Champion Bumper and got beaten by Kilcroot here. That was a bit of a shock on the day, but the other thing with that is that was the only time he was on better ground as well. So the ground is going to be an issue maybe for Sir Gerhard, but overall his profile is fantastic. He looks like a superstar. Be really disappointed if he gets beaten here. I'd be surprised if the stablemate Dysart Dynamo beats him. I think Sir Gerhard is too good. That's my own opinion on it. The other thing here is just you're talking about the weekend, what to back and what not to back. But overall, you got to look at Willie Mullins. He had 19 winners through the week last year at Punchestown. That's exceptional. And he'll do something similar again. I've no doubt about it. When you start going through some of these races, everywhere you look, like this looks a match between two Willie Mullins horses again. So he's going to notch one up in the first grade one of the week. It should be that story all through the week. He's got some unbelievable ammunition lined up for this, and he targets these big meetings like nobody else.
Yeah, absolutely. As you would expect, a strong hand from Willie Mullins in this race here. Stephen, obviously Dysart Dynamo showed up for quite a long way in the Supreme Novices, but it, in my view, looked to be just starting to wilt at the time of his fall. Sir Gerhard, on the other hand, I mean, cruised to success in the Ballymore. That form has been franked by Three Stripe Live come out in since. And going back to the topic at the start of the show where we said about horses who've been on the go for a long time, Sir Gerhard hasn't had an excessively hard campaign. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, I agree. He was really impressive at Cheltenham, wasn't he? Tanked round. He's going to be some chaser when the time comes. Whereas Dysart Dynamo, I mean, reading the race car comments in the trade paper, going easily when fell 3 out. Well, must have been watching a different race to me. John Bon had ruined him. And they were both absolutely legless. I mean, Dysart Dynamo would have got beaten 25 lengths, maybe would have finished second behind Constitution Hill, but maybe there's no disgrace in that. I mean, it wouldn't be the ideal preparation, would it? But I guess he might get an easier time on the lead, although I'd imagine Sir Gerhard won't let him get too far away. It looks a match. I thought it was sort of 4-6 and 5-2. That looks like what it's going to be, so there's not a lot of juice in those prizes.
No, indeed. I think pretty much we all think Sir Gerhard's the one to beat. Mighty Potter, I just want to flag up here. I really fancied him for the Supreme Novices. He made a horrendous blunder, never really went a yard. Gordon Elliott afterwards, Vincent, saying the ground was just far too quick for him. We want to get him back on a proper soft surface. Well, I mean, looking at it, there's the chance of the odd shower, but generally, at the time of recording, the ground on the hurdle and chase course is good to yielding in places. I mean, it's not exactly going to be a swamp out there, is it?
No, this is going to be very quick ground. There's no doubt. We've had really good weather the last 10 days in Ireland. Sunshine all day, windy weather as well. So it's going to dry the ground out unbelievably. I'll be surprised if it's not very quick for these National Hunt horses. Certainly at the start of the week. I don't know how much watering they're going to do as we go through the week if they need to. But certainly I'd be looking at this being quickish ground for jump horses. And I wouldn't think Mighty Potter is one for me. Horse has been disappointing. Anyway, Gordon Elliott's generally have been disappointing. I think this is realistically, it's probably just a victory parade for Sir Gerhard after Cheltenham. The trip is not a problem either. Coming back in distance shouldn't bother him in the slightest. No,
absolutely. He was electric, wasn't he, over the minimum trip at the Dublin Racer Festival? As you say, there was one question mark. Potentially it could be, is the ground a bit lively for him? But he doesn't look short of gears, shall we say. On to the 5:25 at the William Hill Champion Chase. More Grade 1 action on our cards here. What an absolute humdinger this one is, Vincent. We've got Energumene, of course, who lowered the colours of Shishkin when winning the Champion Chase at the Cheltenham Festival. We've also got Chacun, who, how shall we say, is in his own backyard here. Captain Guinness, Andy Dufresne and Envoy Allen make up the 5 going to post for this Grade 1 assignment. How are you summing this one up, Vincent?
I think it's a one-horse race ultimately. It probably is the truth in it here. I think Energumene wins. 4 to 5 looks a very generous price. I'm not sure where the guys got that for the tissue prices, but I'd imagine this will start a lot shorter. I'd be very surprised if Energumene isn't close to 2s on by the time this goes off. Chacun is a very good horse. We know that. He's high class, but he disappointed again in Cheltenham. Unseated rider, stumbled and unseated 4 out. That for me, I don't know whether he would have been in contention. I thought he would be prior to the race, but Energumene, I think, has just got too many guns for this. He's the real deal. He'll be very hard to beat. He's a younger horse on the upward curve, whereas Chacun was beginning to flatten out and probably going downhill at this stage in his career. So I'd be surprised if the big punters don't latch on to Energumene. Like, you've got Sir Gerhard as well. You could see the doubles, the 2 be an obvious double. There's other ones they might stick in on the day, the likes of Bob Olinger, but for me, we'll talk about that later. I wouldn't fancy that horse particularly. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but I think 4 to 5 looks very generous price here, Energumene.
Interesting. Just interested in this, Stephen, because I was slightly of the opposite view, just because I thought perhaps the gap would narrow here. You know, being in Ireland, where old Chacun, I know he's getting on in years, but he hasn't had to get on a ferry here. He's run twice at Punchestown. He bolted up in 2 Grade 1s. Last time he ran here, this meeting last year, he stuffed Allaho by nearly 6 lengths. I mean, that's incredible form. Are we being a little bit kind of a bit of snobbery in terms of age coming into play here?
Well, I mean, I think, you look back at that champion chase at Cheltenham, they tried new tactics, didn't they, with Energumene, and they absolutely worked. I mean, I thought he was a little bit hard, not disappointing, but he had the absolute run of the race when Shishkin picked him off at Ascot. And I actually didn't particularly fancy Energumene, because I thought, well, if they try and do that again, there's other front runners, can't possibly dominate. How's it going to beat Shishkin? Obviously, Shishkin was a miss. It was a race that fell apart. Chacun was out the race. I mean, holding Energumene up worked at Cheltenham. Cruised round on the bridle and was left with nothing to beat in what became a really weak renewal. I would imagine they'll try and ride him that way again, and perhaps that will play into Chacun Possoir's strengths, because I think Chacun's best dominating, jumping well out in front, and he's obviously got a good chance to. I didn't have a massively strong opinion. I don't totally agree with Vincent, because I don't think they'll bet that wide. I think they will be sort of 4-5 and 7-4. I mean, I've actually tipped personally the top one, Andy Dufresne, who's got about £20 to find on ratings, but has only had 2 runs this season, which I think is a big plus. Has only run 6 times over fences. And I thought it was jockey error that caused Andy Dufresne not to land a wholesale gamble at Cheltenham. Admittedly, that's in the Grand Annual, but I always think these sort of races over 2 miles, there's not that much between the graded races and the handicaps, to be truthful. I would have thought £20 was an exaggeration in how much is between them. Better ground will suit Andy Dufresne. I wouldn't be surprised if he ran really well. Mark Walsh is up. As I say, those who joined in the gamble and watched Andy Dufresne in the Grand Annual would have thought he'd won that race the whole way round. And I think Mark Walsh was a little bit overconfident and sat still when he could have made more use of Andy Dufresne. Now, that form might be 300 yards behind the front 2 in the market. I fully accept that. But Andy Dufresne, I just saw 14. I'm sure he'll be 25, 33 on the exchanges. He's going to be a big price, but I'm pretty sure he'll run well.
Yeah, indeed. It's a fascinating contest, isn't it? Yeah, I think Andy Dufresne, isn't it, from the Shawshank Redemption fans out there. If any of you like that film, one of my favourites anyway, after dust off the VHS. But yeah, fascinating contest here. Fascinating contest. I don't know what to do. I probably might play this late, depending on the prices. Finally, on this race, Vincent, Envoy Allen, you've had some strong views on this horse in the past. He's a 20-1 poke here. Do you give any chance to him?
None whatsoever. No,
right,
at this stage I don't. I thought his run in Cheltenham was terrible. I thought that with the way that race fell apart, he should have surely been second to Energumene. Couldn't even do that. I don't think he's anywhere near what they thought he was as a horse going back 2 years ago. I'd be very surprised if he was involved.
There we go. Asked for strong view, and I've definitely got one there. Right, that's the line through Envoy Allen. So, yeah, generally quite split on the panel here, but Vincent very keen on the chances of Energumene. Could be a big play there. His price is currently, just a shade of odds on, so be interested to see how that race shapes up from a market more than anything. I think it's fair to say. On to the 6:35, the Dooley Insurance Group Champion, Novice Chase, Grade 1 action here, over the 3 miles and 60 yards. For those of you of a pedantic disposition, 7 due to go to post. Bob Olinger, 11-8. Now, this is a horse who really is polarised in opinion on the back of what we saw last time out. Of course, we all know what happened and how he cashed in on the Galopin de Champs mishap at the last. In the aftermath, Henry de Bromhead said, look, the quote was, that was not the real Bob. We'll get him home, see what was wrong with him, etc. Well, they found out he was a bit lame. I think he pulled a muscle in behind, or he strained the muscle in behind was the official line. He's now back. He's still unbeaten. To be honest with you, you can kick off, Stephen. I do not have a clue whether he's a good 6-4 shot or not here, really, because on official figures, he's got a lot in hand over a few of these, but nonetheless, he would have to worry me, the performance the last time out, even in landing a Grade 1 at the Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I couldn't back him with stolen money. I'm absolutely stunned he's running. Okay. It was only 40 days ago at Cheltenham. Yep. He jumped very badly. He guessed at several. He hit plenty of them. I mean, I think he'd have got beaten nearly 2 fences if the other one hadn't come down. Now, the other people will say, well, hang on, the Galopin de Champs is the next champion. He's going to win the Gold Cup. Bob had no chance with him anyway. But I thought the horse was properly a miss. I didn't like it at all, how he was moving. He obviously did finish lame, but it wasn't that long ago. I mean, it's a quick turnaround. I mean, this is the classic afterthought horse, isn't it? I mean, I am amazed he's running. I think I said a few weeks ago I'll be stunned if we see him again till sort of next spring. And here he is 40 days later, and he's going to be a fairly short price favourite. The market will be fascinating. I thought the one who's been overlooked by the market here was Beacon Edge, who didn't jump well and ran badly at Cheltenham on really testing ground. But before that, had been progressing really nicely. I thought he ran a screamer at Navan in February when he finished second behind the long odds on Farouk Delen. I thought that was pretty good form. I think he'll like the better ground. Sean Flanagan's up again. You'd hope he's been reschooled after Cheltenham because he was another horse who didn't jump well at all at Cheltenham. It was really disappointing behind Le Press of Venetia's. I think he could bounce back here on better ground, and he's a double-figure price. I think you've got to have a bet in this race. I really cannot have Bob Olinger at a short price.
Okay, Stephen cannot have Bob Olinger. Vincent, are you with or against Stephen here?
I'm in his camp, but not quite as strong as he is on it. I could see Bob Olinger winning, no doubt about it. I think he's probably the best horse in the race. I have no question about that in my own mind, that he's the best horse. The question is his preparation, and also the fact that he hasn't proved himself to be a slick jumper of fences, which is unusual out of that particular yard. But we saw it the first day he ran in Gowran Park. He made a couple of niggling mistakes in the straight, the two of the fences in the straight in Gowran Park the first day. Then the day he ran in Punchestown on his second start, there was low-lying sun. There was a whole load of fences omitted down the back. So we've never really got a proper go at him. We saw him in Cheltenham where he jumps poorly and he's a fortuitous winner of the Grade 1. But again, they found a little niggling problem. So you kind of forgive him somewhat for that. Maybe they're coming a bit soon back to this. But it does look, if he's the same horse that ran in Cheltenham 12 months ago and looked a superstar, he will win this. That's the bottom line. But the question is that going to be the case? And there's enough question marks to say maybe it won't be. I'm a little bit disappointed. We've only got 7 runners here. If we had 8, I'd really fancy a bet in this, a horse each way called Ballyshannon Rose. She's a mare. She's going to be a big price in this. She'll be 14, 16 to 1. Not certain will she be in the first 2, but she'll certainly run well. The plan with her was to go for the Irish Grand National. And the problem they had was that they hadn't run over 3 miles. She's only a novice. They hadn't run over 3 miles. They had to go to Navan for an extra race, which they didn't want to do. And in Navan, she was actually running a blinder. She was definitely going to be involved that day when she unseated at the Fort last. She was making ground hand over fist at that stage on her rivals. And I think she would have probably won that race. I know she's working very well, and they think they have her as good as she can be. She'll love the trip, which is not certain for some of the others. Like this Gabynako here, I'm not certain that horse wants this trip. It was well held by Bob Olinger back in the early part of the year when it finished second to Bob Olinger. That was over 2.5. It didn't look like a horse that wanted an extra half a mile at that stage. The other one in here, Fury Road, which is already a Grade 1 winner over 3 miles, I'm very surprised that's running. The horse ran in Aintree, finished second to Ahoy Seigneur in that 4-runner race in Aintree, but it finished with ataxia, which is it lost its balance and everything after the race. So it was obviously took an awful lot out of it. I'm surprised the horse is back so quickly. The other one here from Aintree is Miller's Bank, which was very impressive, but that was in a weak race in Aintree. I can see holes in a lot of these through it, and I just think maybe Ballyshannon Rose could come somewhere into this. The other thing with this race is, if you go back through the records, only 3 favourites have won in the last 15 runnings of this race. Favourites have a terrible record in it.
As you say, the unpredictability of the time of year. I mean, very quickly on Bob Olinger, you mentioned the trip. 3 miles for him?
Shouldn't be a problem. I don't think it's a problem necessarily. Like, obviously, it's a little bit into the unknown over fences, but at the same time, he should stay. Wouldn't be on this quickish ground as well. It's not going to be that much of a test of stamina. I'd be very surprised if the trip was what found him out. I think it's more likely to be his jumping, particularly, is there's still a big question mark there, and also the fact that he got over whatever was wrong with him at Cheltenham.
Yeah, good point, Sam. Interesting what you said about Miller's Bank for the small Alex Hale's yard. Train near Banbury in England. I just wonder whether that horse is slightly overlooked. I mean, he absolutely made mincemeat of his rivals at Aintree last time out in a race where a few of them do arrive under a little bit of a cloud. I thought, was he 12 to 1 or something? There might be a bit of small trainer bias going on there, but anyway, it might be a small play for me on the day. I'll see how the market is shaping up. Right, we're going to get to our best bets then on naps on day 1 then, gentlemen. Stephen, you can kick us off. The best bet on the Tuesday, please.
6-5, gone for Beacon. Really disappointing at Cheltenham. Didn't jump one fence. Hopefully he's been reschooled. I was really liked him before that. He's lightly raced over fences. Should be loads more to come. And I think he'll improve on much better ground. As I say, it's a race I'm determined to have a bet in. I'm going to back Beacon Edge, and I might save on the second favourite as well of Willie Mullins.
Yeah, nice value nap there for Stephen with Beacon Edge. Vincent?
Yeah, I'm in the same camp as you, Ed. I think Sir Gerhard looks unbeatable on the day. He, for me, if he gets beat, I'll be having a bad day. I know that much anyway. I think he'll surely win.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a bit of, how should we say, fact finding for next year with Sir Gerhard. He's no spring chicken to be going novice chasing with. He'll be 8 next year if you're looking at the likes of Arkles and things. I wonder if he makes hard work of this and scrapes home, they may go chasing. But I've just got a feeling he comes out here, pulverises these by 8 or 10 lengths. He'll be going down the champion hurdle route, in my view. I think so. Be interested to see how he gets on. But yeah, I'm totally with Vincent there. I think Sir Gerhard, they won't see which way he goes. Right, what we're gonna do? We're doing our naps. We're doing our value angles, and we're doing our left of field long shots. We're looking for the value play on the Tuesday. Then, Stephen, if you can kick us off with your selection, please.
Yeah, already talked about 5.25 Andy Dufresne. I know that he's miles up. He's got loads to find on the ratings, but he's just the sort of horse to spring a sort of big price shock at this time of year. He's only had 2 runs this season. I thought he should have won at Cheltenham in the Grand Annual when the whole world was on. And maybe he'll be catching the front 2 at the market at the end of not necessarily a long, hard season, but definitely an afterthought, probably for both of them. Hopefully, he'll get drying ground that will suit him, and he should go really well at a huge price.
Brilliant. And Vincent, yourself?
Yeah, I'm going for this Ballyshannon Rose, which I mentioned earlier in the chase. I think she'll be involved. I know the trainer, Paul Fatty, is pretty keen, and the owners are very confident of a big run. So be disappointed if it doesn't run well. I'm just disappointed myself. There's only 7 runners, and you can't play 3 places each way.
Absolutely, you don't get the dead 8, as they say. And I'm going for Grangy in the mares. She's around the 4-1 mark, but she's third favourite. She's had a bit of a busy campaign, except that. But to me, she's just shaped like a non-stayer at Fairyhouse last time. It was either that or the petrol tank's dry. If in that case, she'll pull up here. But I just thought she ran really well, went 3rd at Cheltenham Festival in the mares novices. Thought coming back in distance, Townend booked to ride. Right, we're going to take a look at our long shots now on the Tuesday Punchestown Festival. Stephen, your best outsider, please.
Well, I have a bit of a flyer again in the 340 Lunar Display. Joseph O'Brien's mare was really eye-catching last time behind Brandy Love in a much stronger race than this. Got an incredibly negative ride in the car park. There was a front runner went miles clear and nothing really got in the race by the front 2. Love Envoy, who's a mare of Harry Fry's, very useful, and Brandy Love quickened up smartly. But Lunar Display finished with loads of running left in the tank. Now, I'm not sure about this drop back in trip, but they should go on really fast pace. So perhaps stamina will come through at the end. Hopefully be a huge price.
Yeah, indeed. Look out for that one at a big price. And Vincent, yourself?
Yeah, I'm going for one of the 450 handicap hurdle. It's an 18-runner handicap hurdle. It's a horse called Gua de Large. It's trained by Henry de Bromhead, ridden by Rachel Blackmore. This horse beat what's going to be the likely favourite in this, a horse called Glan, a JP McManus horse of Gordon Elliott's. It beat this in Fairyhouse in November. There was a neck in it that day. It's actually £4 better off now because Glan was a good winner since. And Glan is most likely going to be favourite. This Gua de Large ran in, only run since November, was in Cheltenham. It ran in the county hurdle, finished midfield behind State Man. I'd expect it to improve from that run and should be a contender at a decent-ish price. It won't be a huge price, but it should be 8, 10, 12 to 1. One other thing just to mention, just while I have a chance here, is the last race, or the 6 o'clock that day on Tuesday, is the Land Rover Bumper. There's a horse in this I think might be worth backing. I don't know a whole lot about it, but it's called Caldwell Potter. It's a full brother to Mighty Potter, trained by Gordon Elliott, ridden by Jamie Codd. It costs 200,000. This is a confined sales race. The one in here that will probably start favourite is one of Willie Mullins, ridden by Patrick Mullins, called Rocco Boy. It's owned by the Slaneyville Syndicate, and one thing I do know is they ran a horse last week in Fairyhouse called Lucky Watson, also trained by Willie Mullins, and that they think is their best. So whatever you think here, you know, it's not that this one he rides is not supposed to be as good as Lucky Watson. So I'd be taking a chance here that the Mighty Potter full brother called Caldwell Potter is worth a bet.
Wonderful, wonderful. Keep your eyes on that one, as Vince says in the bumper. Wasn't a cheap purchase, and I'm throwing in one here at a big price. Tempo Chapter 2 with our friend Canny Danny Mullins on board. Horse clearly didn't stay 3 miles last time out. Back down in trip. Headgear on for the first time. I thought could go well in the Kilishi Hotel Handicap Hurdle at a nice price. Right, that is Tuesday done and dusted. Vincent mentioned at the top of the show, the Wednesday looks an absolute corker. So without further ado, we'll get on to the Wednesday. And Vincent, we're going to go straight in to the 520 here. The Irish Mirror Novice Hurdle Grade 1 action 11 declared for this 3-mile assignment. And we got the nice guy, of course, the unbeaten nice guy, living up to his name. Got the job done at the Cheltenham Festival. Of course, a little bit of an upset. I think it's fair to say. Even Willie Mullins said, this horse at home shows you absolutely nothing. But you put him on the track and he comes alive. Well, he's going to be around the 5-2 mark here, maybe a little bit shorter. Is he one for you, Vincent?
No, this is a really difficult race. I could make cases for nearly all of these in this. There's form lines that are switching and changing between them all. One beats the other, then another beats that, and there's different things between them all. You have horses like the nice guy obviously beats the more fancied Minella, Cocooner in Cheltenham. You've got Hollow Games, isn't far behind in Cheltenham either, will love this trip. You've got Minella, Crooner, Journey with Me. There's not a lot between all of them each time they meet. I'd be thinking this is very difficult. I could see any sort of result. I wouldn't put anyone off the favourite, the nice guy. Obviously, the horse has never been beaten and it looked most impressive in Cheltenham, winning 5 lengths. But at the same time, I think this is very trappy. This is one for me to sit down and just watch and enjoy.
One for you to sit down. You've only just got to the race course. We go.
Well, this is the second day of it. I'll have been there on Tuesday as well, so I'll need to sit down.
Yeah, the petrolite might be coming on for Vincent as well as some of the horses at the end of this season. But yeah, no, absolutely. Stephen, for you, is this trappy? Or I mean, the nice guy absolutely obliterated them, didn't he, at the Cheltenham Festival? Any reason why he won't go and do that again?
Well, I'm not sure what that race amounted to in the end, Ed, because Ginto broke down, didn't he? And Hillcrest was beaten after a mile.
Right.
And Willie Mullins doesn't have many horses of sort of 25 on the exchanges that bolt up at the Cheltenham Festival. So you'd like to think he knew what he had on his hands. I know unexposed horse and progressive, but I couldn't take 3-1. I agree with Vincent. It's a very warm race. I've got it down to my 2, Minella Crooner, who's fresh after 81 days off, who definitely wasn't seen to best effect when beaten by Minella Cocooner last time. And this is one for the pencil man, by the way, in a betting shop, isn't it? Minella C and a scrawl, you'll get on both of them if one of them wins. So I do think Minella Crooner is a big runner, but the one I like is our horse, Hollow Games, who we've probably spent more time talking about than any horse on Jump to It over the last 6 months. He's finally gets his chance over 3 miles, and I think he has been screaming that he needs a proper test of stamina. He finished strongly at Cheltenham in that huge field handicap won by Banbridge. He ran an absolute blinder. I think the trip is the key. He's a one-pace staying galloper. He does hang left a bit for pressure, which might be a slight concern, but I think on sort of good to softish ground here, hopefully, 3 miles is absolutely going to suit him. He's 7-1. It's a very fair price. There should still be more to come from him over hurdles. He's only had 5 runs. Considering how much we've been talking about him, I was actually surprised he's only had 5 runs over hurdles. But I thought he was very eye-catching at Leopardstown and at Cheltenham, and this is what he needs, 3 miles, definitely.
Yeah, I concur, actually. I think Hollow Games, well, we've been saying it since, as you say, probably since about last November. I was like, run him over 3 miles. I thought, the Albert Bartlett would have been the perfect race for him at the festival. He came up the hill really strongly in defeat, finished 3rd in the Martin Piper, as you say. So, the only other one I thought was just interesting here, Journey with Me, Vincent, of course, who brought an unbeaten profile into the Ballymore when beaten it at the time, it has to be said, behind Sir Gerhard. But up in trip with this horse, I think the trip is definitely a big tick in the box for that one.
You could be right, yeah. It was very impressive in Leopardstown on its first run over hurdles as well. I wouldn't put anyone off that. I think this is very difficult. The other thing is you're talking about Hollow Games and he needs 3 miles, but his form figures are screaming it. He's 3. It's written in his form figure, so he definitely wants 3 miles. He's one for me. I suppose if I was to have a little bet in it, that's the one I would have a bet on, because I just think that the trip is the key to him. I think the further he goes, the better he'll be. He's the sort of horse you could see in the 4 miler in Cheltenham next year, that type of thing. So yeah, for me, I think Hollow Games, if I have to pin my colours to the mast, I'll say a little bet on him as an outside chance.
Yep, all in the Hollow Games team there. I think it's fair to say what should be an exciting contest. Now, on to, we mentioned the 3s. We've got the 5.55, the Ladbrokes Punchestown Gold Cup. 9 winners declared for this. This is an absolute who's who of top-class chasers, isn't it, Vincent? I mean, this is it's definitely the race of the week, if not one of the races of the season in Ireland or anywhere, really. Absolute stunning Gold Cup winners, King George winners, Grade 1 winners right, left and centre. I mean, how do you pick this one apart?
You don't. It's just you just sit back again like the previous one and you enjoy it. This is going to be fantastic. It's going to be one of the races of the season. There's no question about it. Probably of any season. Look, I just hope they all turn up. You get your each way play as well with the 9 runners. Everything is set up here for this to be an amazing race. And the one thing to note here is the lowest rated horse in this is 164. And if we go back a few weeks ago in Aintree, we had a grade 1 novice hurdle where the highest rated horse in it was 143, 21 pounds lower than the lowest horse here. This is superior standard of anything. Like you look at a horse in here that we talk about quite a lot because it keeps winning is Facile Vega. A really good horse, but it's probably got no chance against these, not in this class. It's already been beaten multiple times by Alaho. I can see this being an absolute cracker. And whatever way you look at it, whatever horse wins it, you could make cases for virtually all of them again here. Even the likes of Tornado Flyer, Janadil, they have their chances. Galvin as well wasn't beaten that far in the Gold Cup. This is an absolute cracker. I don't know where I would go with it, but the one thing is Alaho over this trip. That's the question, isn't it? Is he going to be as electric as he is in the Ryanair each year over those interim distances? This stepping up to 3 miles, he's always looked like he should be a 3 miler. Why wouldn't he be a 3 miler for several of the others that are actually coming back in trip from a Gold Cup back to this sort of distance? But over this trip, if he goes off in front and jumps the way he jumps, oh my word, this is going to be some spectacle to see the others coming at him over 3. Will he hang on? Everything else. There's so many dynamics to it. Really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I think you've nailed the key one there, though, Vincent, is the race revolves around Alaho and the trip. So I'd like to bring Stephen in here. I mean, you look on collateral form, it has the likes of Facile Vega and Janadil back in different postcodes. Can he maintain that over 3? I mean, do you think they might try and do something different here? I mean,
that's the question, isn't it?
Well, I've just to finish here, I see Chief Department said they've got one eye on the King George next season. So is this a fact-finding mission? Do you think they will just go all guns blazing, or will they try and do something in holding him up? Could they be reducing or getting rid of his best asset?
Well, I totally agree with that, because the way Alaho's won these races, he was such a destructive winner the last 2 Ryanairs, wasn't he? But he'd won those races by halfway.
Yeah.
He goes off at a really strong pace, jumps superbly, and had them absolutely stone cold. He doesn't scream 3 miler to me, I must admit. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he won by any stretch of the imagination. He has tried 3 miles before in the distant past. He's won over 3 miles before, but there have been some defeats over 3 miles as well. And he hasn't looked the strongest stayer. It's just this season he's looked imperious. It was a very weak race at Cheltenham that he had won from halfway again. He's a brilliant jumper. I don't think I could take 5-2. I must admit, with the trip of doubt. I think Clan des Oboes, who's won this before, is a very worthy opponent. 12 from 26, Paul Nicholls, in the last fortnight. We seem to have spent quite a lot of time saying he's been out of form, Paul Nicholls, but he's absolutely flying now. I mean, he won every race virtually at Sandown at the weekend. Clan des Oboes was very impressive at Aintree. It's hard to see Kenboy reversing the form. Kenboy had the run of the race from the front at Aintree and was brushed aside, didn't jump brilliantly yet again. So I do respect Clan des Oboes. I have actually I've tipped up Facile Vega because I was so impressed with his defeat of Hitman last time at Aintree. Hitman jumped and travelled superbly, and Facile blew him away. I thought it was a really impressive performance. I'm not worried about 3 miles. The amazing thing with Facile Vega is, Ed, he's only a 7-year-old. He's run 17 times over fences with 6 wins. He's just thriving on his racing. I was really taken. He might be the now horse going forward, and he does represent slightly different form lines to all the Gold Cup horses. My view of the Gold Cup at Cheltenham is the winner, A Plus Tard, is an outstanding horse, and all those in behind are much of a muchness and not much. So I don't particularly fancy Alboom Photo at all. Galvin, I think, will be too slow. We've also got Minella Indo's beaten an awful long way. So I think their horses are hard to fancy, and I just think Facile Vega, keep it simple. He'll love the decent ground. I think he'll go really well. He might get a lot closer to Alaho this time.
You think the trip is the enabler for him to close the distance with Alaho? Would that be fair to say?
I think it'll be a plus. I think he definitely stays perfectly well. I'm confident he'll go well. I think he could be 10-1 easily. He's got plenty to find with 1 or 2 of them, and I think he's going to be a fair price.
Yeah, and Vincent, just to bring you in on some of the others, you can say it seems almost crackers to call them outsiders, aren't they? They're all double figure prices. You've got Album Photo, Dual Gold Cup winner, Tornado Flyer, of course, won the King George, disappointed, didn't really get jumping at all in the Chacun Gold Cup. Any of those at the bigger prices you think perhaps the market is unfairly dismissing here?
Well, like Tornado Florida would be one for certain. That we felt before the Gold Cup that the trip was going to be a bit of a question mark. Would the horse stay the 3.25 in the Gold Cup? Coming back to 3, same trip as the King George on better ground and everything. Tornado Flyer could definitely spring a surprise here. That'd be one for me at a price. I'd have thought that will definitely run well. Album Photo, it's very hard to rule him out considering that he's Willie Mullins for starters and he's a dual Gold Cup winner. And you have Minella Indo as well. Like, I didn't fancy Minella Indo in the Cheltenham Gold Cup. It ran way better than I thought it would. Like you stopped the Cheltenham Gold Cup after 3 miles rather than 3.25, and he's still in front and going well, about 4 lengths in front of a Plutard. Look to have them all in trouble till a Plutard comes through the gap and quickens clear and looks like a machine. But Minella Indo ran a cracker in that Gold Cup. And coming back a couple of furlongs isn't going to be a major inconvenience for a horse that, as everyone says, comes to light in the spring every year. So this is a cracking race, an absolutely fantastic renewal.
It really is. I wondered whether Galvin was the little bit the forgotten horse here. I was watching the replay of the Gold Cup. I totally take on board what Stephen says, but Galvin beat Plutard on his penultimate start over 3 miles. He was ridden much more promptly. If you look at it 2 out, he was hassling the leaders and they tried to make most of his stamina. I thought it was unusual tactics, I think it's fair to say, last time out in the Gold Cup. He was ridden very quietly. For a horse stays 3 miles, 6 furlongs, I thought perhaps they would have made more use of his stamina, shall we say. Look, I don't think it would have made any difference. He wouldn't have beaten Plutard on the day, but I'm not quite sure we saw Galvin to best effect there under a quiet ride. I wouldn't be shocked here if he was up in the van and they, put his stamina to best use. But look, it should be an absolute humdinger. Really looking forward to this. Whatever you're doing, stop and watch the 5:55 at Punchestown Gold Cup, one of the races of the season. The following race on the card, the 6:30. Well, we're all chewing the fat after that assignment. Facile Vega, one of the rising stars of the game. I think it's fair to say. All sorts of question marks about this horse just before the off, Stephen, in the champion bumper. If you remember, well, we all remember rightly, the ground went to absolute pot. I mean, I think I was in the gents trying to get my shirt and suit dried in the hand dryers at the time we were going to post on this. It was absolute carnage. Yeah, never seen rain like it at Presby Park. Nonetheless, Facile Vega, it was a facile success, wasn't it?
Well, they both looked top class, didn't they? I mean, I suppose if you're going to be a sort of bookmaker contrarian, you're looking to get these short ones beat, the ground is going to be completely different here for Facile Vega. All 3 wins have been on testing ground so far, and this will be the quickest that he's ever run on. And American Mike ran an absolute screamer. It looks between the 2 of them. I'm not sure it's a race I'll be getting financially involved in. It looks another cracking race to watch, but fair play. This is the difference between Britain and Ireland, and we talked about this. They don't swerve these fights, do they, the top yards over there? Gordon Elliott's come back for another go. He could have found another. There's probably 10 bumpers this week at Punchestown. He's gone head-to-head again with Facile Vega. Maybe the better ground will suit American Mike, and he'll get a lot closer, but a fascinating race to watch.
It sure is. Vincent, never race you'll probably be sitting down enjoying, but to be fair, these are horses that have got us all on the edge of our seats this year. I mean, Facile Vega's been electric. American Mike run really well in defeat at the Cheltenham Festival, Stephen mentioned, but before that, an ooze class. And you've got horses like Redemption Day. I mean, if you're forgiving in regards to the ground last time, I mean, that horse looked a wonderful prospect when winning over the Christmas period. There seems to be a lot of depth in this, it has to be said.
Yeah, there is. This is a fascinating race. It's great to see the big 2 particularly. Look, there is some strength and depth in it, but the big 2 particularly coming back here again, like we had last year. We'd Kilcroot and Sir Gerhard from Cheltenham. Took each other on again in Punchestown. That was an absolute humdinger of a race. Just the excitement that drew for the crowd, because Irish crowds love nothing more than bumper. That's the big one for us all the time. We love our bumper races, and we had 2 of our best bumper horses going to Cheltenham. Each camp thought they were a certainty. The Gordon Elliott, Jamie Codd crew, they thought American Mike could be beat. And look, in fairness, they have a very, very good horse here. And you'd have to say it'll throw it down to Facile Vega again. But there's a couple of interesting angles to this. The first one is this is very unusual. We've a 9-runner bumper here. And in bumpers, normally the whole thing is it's all the question marks about potential ability and everything else. But Facile Vega has beaten the other 8 runners before, which is most unusual in a bumper. It met all 8 before and beaten them all. It beat 6 of them in Cheltenham, or 5 of them in Cheltenham, and the others it beat at Leopardstown and that before that. The other thing to take note of here is Willie Mullins has won 6 of the last 7 runnings of this race, but most astonishingly, Patrick has only ridden 1 of them. He's chosen the wrong one nearly every year, which is most amazing, including last year when he rode Sir Gerhard rather than Kilcroot. So Patrick rides Facile Vega. What else can he do here? But you've got Redemption Day and you've got this Seabank Bistro, which was 4th in the Cheltenham bumper. Like, there's not a huge amount in this between some of these when you start adding it up. It's a fascinating race, but because Facile Vega has beaten all of them before, I think he beats them all again, and he's probably a good bet even at odds on.
Yeah, absolutely. Going to be a short price, but I'm really excited. Also, I suppose going further forward, it'll be which way they go over hurdles. Some view that perhaps America might be a bit more of a stare. Facile Vega, a lot more natural speed. Again, time will tell. But this race in itself, as we say, they're not ducking each other here. This is head-to-head. What a dust-up that'll be. Really exciting stuff. Right. Let's sort out our best bets on the Wednesday then. We're going to have your naps then, please, gentlemen. Stephen, you can kick us off your best bets on the Wednesday to Punchestown Festival, please.
Yeah, I really like Facile Du Berlais. I'm just mortified, having backed Hitman each way, how easily Facile Du Berlais brushed him aside. And I'm going to stick with Facile Du Berlais. I think he's a horse who'll love the decent ground. There's a few old slow boats in here. He's slightly different line of form. I think at the prices, I think he's going to be nudging double figures. I think he's a sporting nap.
Oh, yeah. Value. Interesting value call there. Facile Du Berlais. Vincent, yourself?
Yeah, I'm going with Facile Vega as my nap of the day. I think Facile Vega wins, all things being equal. We're going to see the same result probably that we saw in Cheltenham. Just might be a bit more impressive this time on better ground.
Yeah. I think a lot of people will be agreeing with you on that. I'm going for Galvin in the Gold Cup. I maintain, I just think the quiet hold-up tactics on a horse who clearly stays backfired at Cheltenham. And when he beat up Plutard on his penultimate start over this trip, he was ridden much more forcefully. We know he stays well. So I hope to see Galvin up there jumping early. I think he could serve it up to them in what, again, repeat, looks an absolutely spellbinding contest. Right, our value picks of the day. Vincent, where are we going here?
Yeah, for the value, I'm going to go with Hollow Games, which we've talked about. Just because of the trip, I don't think the horse brings the best form into the race, but I think the extra distance will bring out the best in Hollow Games, and I think Hollow Games is probably worth a little interest at least.
I agree with every word you say there. That's 2 for Hollow Games. So, Stephen?
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, we've all come up with these independently, believe it or not. Nobody's been checking anyone else's notes. I've gone for Hollow Games as well. I just think it's screaming out for 3 miles. Hopefully they won't ride him as though they don't think he's going to stay. I want a positive ride.
Yeah.
Nothing happens very quickly, whether it's 2 mile, 5 or 3 miles. And he does drift left for pressure, but I think he'll go really well here. He's been screaming 3 miles all season.
Absolutely. 3 miles for Hollow Games, around 7-1 mark. That's our value play unanimous on the panel. And then look at it, the long shot. Stephen, you continue. Where's your left of field selection going here?
I've gone in the 340, a Dermot O'Brien trained horse, Molly Wedger, who I thought was a huge eye catcher last time out in a Grade 3 under a very negative ride. Better ground here. Down in trip to 2 mile 3. They're going to have to be a lot more positive. Hopefully ride really handy, stays really well, and should be a huge price as well.
One at a big price for Stephen. Vincent?
Yeah, I'm going for an odd one here. Well, it could be an odd one. I haven't got the full jockeys yet for this particular race. It's in the last race on the card on Wednesday, the 7:45. It's a mare's bumper. We've declared runners for it, but we haven't got all the jockeys at the stage of recording. And Willie Mullins has quite a few in it, and he hasn't jocked up who rides what yet. The one I like here is a horse called Nikini. She ran in Fairyhouse the last day. A number of these ran it, including the horses that finished ahead of her that day. Doran's Weir won it, and the other one, Pink in the Park, of Willie Mullins, has finished second. This particular filly, Patrick chose her over 3 or 4 others from the stable in that race in Fairyhouse. It was a valuable race as well for mares, and he chose her, and she didn't travel a yard from him. No, never going at any stage, but yet she flew home. She's only beaten bits and pieces in the finish. Another 50 yards, I think she probably would have won. So I think it's worth taking a chance again, Nikini. I'm not sure which one he rides, but regardless of that, this Nikini definitely caught my eye in Fairyhouse and could be one for a price.
One for a price for Vincent there, Nikini. I'm going with Largy Debut in the 4:45. Remember at the start of the season, this horse caused an almighty upset I think Kilcrook was one of the shortest odds-on favourites ever beaten at the time. Hasn't quite worked since, but up in trip here, tongue time for the first time. Thought could go well at a double-figure price for the Rachel Blackmore and Henry de Bromhead combination. Yeah, it should be an excellent day of racing it on Wednesday. We'll now move on to the Thursday. I don't know if Vincent will still have any petrol left in the tank for Thursday, as he's in his third different suit of the week. He'll be straight to the bar, but he's getting straight into the action with the 5:25, the Ladbrokes Champions Stairs Hurdle Grade 1 contest on your cards. Obviously, at the time of recording, we haven't got the final decks here. We've got a bit of an idea listening to connections of who's likely to make the gig. A Classical Dream, I suppose, Vincent, is again, we've got a few horses this week who are polarising opinion, be it with bookmakers, with punters, with fans. Classical Dream looks brilliant, as he did 12 months ago. And then again, he can throw in the odd stinker. How do you sum him up?
Well, he ran a pure stinker down in Gordon Park mid-season there. And then in Cheltenham in particular, he looked all over a winner for many stages of that Stayers Hurdle in Cheltenham against Florian Porter. He was cruising all the way around, moved up to challenge from the second last, between the second last and the last, and then he just flattened out, didn't stay up the hill. He was a horse that was a very good 2-miler back in the day, so 3 miles probably isn't his ideal trip. Ultimately, he does stay it. He's won over it. He's a pretty decent horse, but at the same time, you can oppose him if he's going to be a short price. I'm looking at 6 to 5 as the opening tissue prices on this, and then if a few of these drop out, because there's a lot of these, I've had a lot of races. I wouldn't be taking a very short price about him. I think there's some value in here. I think there's some very interesting horses in here among the entries. The one I particularly like is Vanillier of Gavin Cromwell's. This horse has been novice chasing. He was a very good horse, won the Albert Bartlett last year as a novice. And things haven't really worked out over fences. They backed him a few days. He's obviously still working really well at home, and they think he's a very good horse, but he just keeps disappointing on the track, including in the 4-miler at Cheltenham, where the National Hunt Chases is now called, where he only finished third to the two main protagonists in that. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs here. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a gamble on him, because he's definitely still producing it all at home. He's obviously from the same yard as Florian Porter, who doesn't run, so they know what they're dealing with here, what it takes to win one of these Stayers hurdles. Another really interesting horse that's entered here but probably doesn't run is Mellon. Had a very good season, Mellon, as a 10-year-old. Just after winning a Grade 2 and a Grade 3, has run well in some big races, including at Leopardstown earlier in the season. And this is a horse that finished second in 2 champion hurdles. It'd be very interesting to see how this horse runs over 3 miles. It was actually over 3 miles it won the last day. First time I think it ran over 3 miles, as far as I know, when it won over fences the last day. So that's another interesting contender. But you've got horses in here like Sire Du Berlais, who looked a revelation in Aintree when beating Florian Porter. You've got Paisley Park, who obviously is the match of Classical Dream, at least on the Cheltenham form. You've got so many in here. Commander of Fleet will be a forgotten horse here. If it runs, it'll probably be a 33 to 1 chance that it won the Coral Cup. This is a bloody good race when you start looking into it and what's in there. But if Vanillier runs back over hurdles, I'd definitely be interested.
Do you know what? That's uncanny, because I'm with Vanillier as well. I think jumps like an absolute snooker table over fences, but he's clearly got the engine, and he's got the back class over hurdles. I wouldn't be shocked. I agree with Vincent there. If he ran a huge race, returning to the smaller obstacles. What do we make of this one, Stephen? We've got a lot of old campaigners in here. We say this on every show. I think sooner rather than later, they've got to just throw the towel in and go. I thought Paisley Park was nearer retirement than placing in a Stayers hurdle. And of course, he bolted up, didn't he, when he won the Cleve, and then ran a storm at the festival. Sire Du Berlais, I mean, he's 10 years young. Where did that come from in Aintree last about? We seem to have a few of these jokers in the pack who keep pulling out here. I mean, how do you kind of pick this race apart?
It's a very hard race to assess, because I do think these are a lot of horses coming here on the back of hard races, whether it's at Cheltenham or at Aintree, even more recently. I've gone for Ashdale Bob here, only because it's completely different lines of form, and I really liked his run in that huge field handicap at the Cheltenham Festival. He fronted, he was harried the whole way, and he only cracked after the last. Now, obviously, on ratings, he's got plenty to find, but I'm with you, really. Classical Dream, I didn't like him before the start at Cheltenham. He looked reluctant to line up, and he ended up getting quite a negative ride. He was cruising from halfway, as Vincent said, and just wilted late. He's definitely a tricky sort. He has only had 3 runs this season. Perhaps he'll be fresh enough to do himself justice. But I just think at this stage of the season, they're backing these horses at short prices. on the back of ratings and runs in the back of the form book. It's quite a dangerous business. You don't know what you're going to get. It's a very trappy. I couldn't have Mellon. I don't fancy. He was still stargazing at the crowd when he won a week race with the run of it the other day. I don't think he'll get home in a true run race back over hurdles. Don't fancy him, but I certainly wouldn't put you off Vanilla at all. I can totally hear that. I've just gone for a similar priced outside Ashdale Bob if he runs, because I loved his run at Cheltenham, but very, very trappy.
Yeah, indeed. It'll be competitive, but should be exciting as well. 6:35 is the final grade one we're going to cover on the Thursday, which is the Barberstown Castle Novices Chase. Grade 1 action over the 2 miles here. And it sounds like we're going to get at least Blue Lord, Gabynako and Gentleman de Me, the 3 protagonists as far as the anti-post market would suggest, Vincent. It sounds like all those 3 are going to line up. In itself, just those 3 went to post, it'd be a great race, and I'm no doubt Willie Mullins will throw a couple more in there as well.
Yeah, Willie Mullins has won the last 6 renewals of this, so he probably will throw a few more in. Why not? He's got so much talent in that yard. The one thing here is, look, I'm not certain that they all run, but as it stands at the minute, if Gentleman de Me runs, 2-1 is an unbelievable price here. This is astonishing price, in my opinion. You go back to Cheltenham. You've Edward Stone was the most impressive winner of the Arkle and beats Gabynako, who was supplemented for that. We thought Gabynako wanted a longer trip rather than the 2-mile trip. But Gavin Cromwell, obviously a very clever man, knew what he was doing. He supplemented at quite an expense to run Gabynako in the Arkle. Obviously, he was trying to avoid some of the better horses in the longer distance races. So finishes second there, beaten 4 1/4 lengths by Edward Stone. You've got Blue Lord as another 3.5 lengths back in third that day. So Edward Stone was far and away better than the pair of them in Cheltenham. Edward Stone goes to Aintree. So the question you have to ask yourself is, did the same Edward Stone turn up in Aintree? And I think it did. If the same Edward Stone turned up in Aintree, this Gentleman to Me is an absolute certainty, because he blew Edward Stone away, looked awesome, jumping from the front, a really solid performance. I'll be shocked if that's 2-1 on the day if it turns up against these 2. He should surely be head and shoulders above the other pair on the balance of everything we've seen over the last 6 or 8 weeks.
Well, you make some good points there, Vincent. Alan King and Tom Cannon were on record after the Edward Stone run at Aintree. They said, look, were you just flat from your run in the Arkle? Said, no, not at all. We think we've just bumped into one there. And Alan King actually said the one horse he didn't want to see declared at Aintree was Gentleman de Me. And yeah, it may be. He's just a really excited type who clearly thrives on some proper spring ground. You look at his profile, whenever the word good is around, he's a free going sort, likes to get on with things, and that clearly plays to his strengths. Stephen, for you, is there a standout performer in this?
Well, I quite like Gabynako here, who finished second behind Edward Stone at Cheltenham. Obviously, 44 days to recover, missed Aintree. I thought shaped really well in that race, finished ahead of Blue Lord, and no fluke about it, up the inside, travelled really strongly, just not quite good enough up the hill. Progressing really nicely over fences. Will love the decent grounds. Only had 5 runs over fences, so there should be a bit more to come. Gavin Cromwell's had a couple of winners in the last fortnight, which is encouraging. I thought he'd go well. I agree with Gentleman to Me was extremely impressive at Aintree. Gifted a solo on the lead. We don't know the final decks yet. This could end up being a small field race, in which case Gentleman to Me would be extremely hard to catch if he was left alone again. But he was seen to absolute maximum effect at Aintree. Edward Stone was rather ridden out the heat of the race and probably not at his best on the day. So I wouldn't take things quite as literally as Vincent. While this could end up being a 3 or 4 runner race quite easily. I mean, it must be quite likely that Blue Lord won't oppose Gentleman to Me. They're the same yard. I can't think of a huge upside in running them against each other. Maybe Willie Mullins will duck this one.
Well, interesting point. I mean, on the assumption Blue Lord does run, Stephen, I mean, what do you make of him? Was he beaten fair and square in the Arkle? I mean, he was the Irish Arkle winner before that, of course, when we had that carnage with Riviere de Tal. Do you think perhaps we've just got to the ceiling of his ability, or do you think there were valid excuses for that defeat in the Arkle?
I think he probably ran his race at Cheltenham. We were quite negative, weren't we, on some of the form of his races earlier. He won narrowly from Riviere de Tay, and he was probably a lucky winner that day. It's probably just as good as he is. You know, he's had the run there is. I mean, I would imagine he'll like decent ground as well. He's quite a strong traveller. You have to respect his claims. They are all closely matched. My only sort of alarm bell with Gentleman and Me coming back to him is that, as I say, everything panned out so well for him at Aintree. Willie Mullins will have that was his race. He was fresh for it. He jumped superbly. And Aintree can be quite a good front runner's track. And he was seen to his absolute best there. So it's a fascinating race. We don't know the final deck. So it's difficult to put up a front runner when you don't know what's going to be up against him,
Yeah, I totally see that angle coming in there. They're the two grade ones we've covered. Right, we're going to get to our best bets on the Thursday. I think we're split on the panel here. Stephen, you can kick us off your nap on the Thursday Punchestown, please.
Just been talking about him. 6:35.
Yep.
Gabynako progressing nicely. I really loved his run behind Edwardstone. He's been freshened up. 6 weeks off since. He didn't go to Aintree. He's a smooth traveller with a turn of foot. He'll love the decent ground. I think he might be too strong for Gentleman to me.
Absolutely. And as we saw on the graphic on the screen there, myself and Vincent, we're with Gentleman to Me. Hopefully he can get on the front end, ping off the ground, and reproduce that form which saw him swat aside Arca winner Edwardstone at Aintree. Right, looking for the value angle pick on the Thursday. Vincent, you can kick us off with this one.
Yeah, for the value angle, I'm going for Minella in the Stayers hurdle. That's the one for me. I think it's a cracking price at the minute, 14-1. That's presuming it turns up. We know it's only entries at this stage, but if Minella turns up, can't be 14-1. I could see a gamble on this. Wouldn't be surprised to see this win.
I've gone for City Chief, Nicky Henderson in the handicap hurdle. I think it was that 6 or 6:20. I've got the time now, but yeah, 6 o'clock. City Chief for the Nicky Henderson team. 7 barriers, not that many runners coming over this week, but he's a progressive sort over 3 miles. Thought he could go wow. And Stephen, for you?
My value angle selection is in the 4:15, a handicap. Coeur Sublime. I'm not sure which race he's going to go to over the 5 days, but he is decked up for this one. He was disappointing at Cheltenham. I had him winning a few quid at a big price. He didn't jump well at all. He got detached early on, not fluent at the first 3 fences. He then made a bit of headway and well held when he got hampered by a faller at the last. But I think on his previous form, he's a big runner here, and he's got ideal conditions. He's liable to be a huge field, good ground, a really, really strong gallop's what he needs. And hopefully he can jump better than he did at Cheltenham and come into things late.
Yeah, possibly, maybe the Grand Annual, in hindsight, probably been the race for him. We don't know. You should say, time will tell. That is the selection of Stephen there. Now, looking at our left of field selections on Longshot. Vincent, what have you got for us at big price, please?
Yeah, the one I'm going for is Silver Sheen. It runs in a handicap hurdle at 6 o'clock. It's trained by Jessica Harrington. The horse ran very well in Fairyhouse only a week ago. A horse called Capilano Bridge of Conroe Dwyer's, his son rode it. They kind of stole that race. They kicked after the 4th last, shot about 5-6 lengths clear, and the rest of the field couldn't go. Silver Sheen had been up at the pace, but kept on really well, and it was a strong finisher in the race. It was a good performance. I could see this run very well. Jessica Harrington normally has 1 or 2 primed for Punchestown. This could easily be one of her winners during the week. She'd be disappointed it's her local track and everything, or one of her local tracks, and I know her son-in-law is heavily involved in the track as well, so she'd be someone who'd be looking for a winner. Wouldn't be surprised to see that. One horse I'll just pass on, I have a bit of a tip for it, is a horse called Mascada. It was trained in England by Stuart Edmonds, won 4 times in the UK. It's now joined Henry de Bromhead and is supposed to be working very well. He doesn't have the horse very long, but I'm told that this is expected to run a big race on this particular day, Thursday. It's entered twice. It's in a handicap. It's also in the race, the Novice Chase with Gentleman to Me. I'd be surprised if it ran there, but if it does, maybe it could run well at a price.
Okay, Mascada for the Henry de Bromhead team. Look out for that one as well. And Stephen, for you?
In the 5:25, another horse who's got lots to find on the bear ratings, Ashdale Bob. But he's here from a cracking run in a really red-hot handicap at Cheltenham. He'll like the ground. He'll definitely stay well. He's going to be a double-figure price, and there could be a few jaded horses in this race on the back of very hard races at Aintree and at Cheltenham. So Ashdale Bob for me, hopefully, will sort of get 14, 16, 20-1 on the day if he goes for this race.
Absolutely. It's a case of tomato here for myself, because I've actually got Minella in as my long shot, which is Vincent's value angle. But yeah, look, whatever you want to call him, he's a double-figure price. If he lines up, wouldn't be shocked if if you roll back the years to some extent, clearly a horse with a great engine just can't jump fences. Wouldn't be the first horse to come back to small obstacles and put in a bold show. Right, that pretty much brings to a conclusion what we're covering here for the first 3 days of the Punchestown Festival. Before we go, Vincent, yourself, so have you got a racing ritual? Have you got a routine? Right foot, right shoe on for you, left? The same Eggs Benedict every morning, same cafe you go to, or do you just get straight to the track and dive into the rails?
Oh, we dive into the rails, I'd say. No need for anything else at this stage. I'm too long in the tooth for those sort of rituals to get there. I've been racing in a while. Got to tell the problem I have at home here is I've only just seen the decks for Wednesday in Punchestown. I'd already told my wife I'm heading over Tuesday, so don't expect me home. And now it looks like I'm going to have to go Wednesday after seeing the Gold Cup and the bumper runners. I think I'll have to go again, so we'll have to try and broach that subject at some stage over the next 24 hours.
I'll leave you to those, enjoy those tricky conversations, it has to be said. Stephen, just a bit of advice to like punters or form book students. I mean, would there be kind of one overall angle or tactic you would employ with the Punchestown Festival? Because I mean, it's 5 days, there's a lot of races, it's easy to get carried away here, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's the same tips that we had before Cheltenham and before Aintree to some extent. But I do think this stage of the season, let's not forget, Ed, that most of the form book is on soft ground. And as Vincent said, it's drying out there all the time, yielding, good to yielding. By the middle of the 5 days, it could easily be good or even on the faster side of good. So you've got judgments about horses. We've been watching them plough through mud, having hard races for the last 6 months. It's the end of a long season for them. You are only evens that horses give their running. And I think that's something to bear in mind, particularly if you're looking at short price favourites.
Yeah, absolutely. Some great advice there. It's always exciting, the Punchestown Festival. And many thanks for watching, listening at home. I hope we've pointed you in the direction of a few winners. We've got some interesting value calls here. Lots of big prices in some of these handicaps, and including some of the grade ones as well. Whatever you fancy, get in touch with social media. Let us know your thoughts and keep up with all Stephen's tips on bettingexpert.com. And of course, for all things Punchestown Festival, please do keep your eyes on irishracing.com, where Vincent and the team giving you all the latest news, views and features as they happen. Personally, just cannot wait for this Punchestown Gold Cup. What a race that'll be over the 3 miles. But my thanks to Stephen, my thanks to Vincent, as always. Thanks for you for watching at home. As I said at the top of the show, join us again at the end of the week. On Friday, we'll be going through the remainder of the Punchestown Festival card, where we should be seeing Honeysuckle. We'll also be turning our attention to the 2,000 and 1,000 guineas at Newmarket as well. See you all again soon. Bye for now.